Where do I see the presentation? Now. Okay. On the road to carbon neutral, let me talk about renewable fuels as one of the alternatives to decarbonize today with you. Before we dive into the topic, in a nutshell, we talk about Neste, not Nestlé. Very important. Let me give you some facts about the company, what we talk about here. So Neste has been founded in 1948 to secure the oil supply for the Finnish state after World War II. We have been heavily investing in the last 2 decades into the buildup of refineries for renewable fuels, which made us now the #1 producer for sustainable diesel and aviation fuel, with a capacity currently of 3.3 million tons, growing to 5.5 million tons next year, and there's more to come. 92% of our product is made from waste and residues already in 2021, and this number is constantly increasing. To give you some taste of which amount of greenhouse gas emission we could save with our product, we phrased that into the number of 4.2 million passenger cars which have been taken basically from the road. This is the amount of 11 million tons GHG emission reduction saving what we could achieve already in 2021. Neste was in the past an oil company and made a successful transition into one of the most sustainable companies. Now we just have been awarded for the Sustainability Award in Germany. Our revenue in last year was 15.1 billion euros. So within Neste, we have 3 segments what we talk about. We talk about renewable road transportation, which is also covering, of course, applications, stationary power generators. We talk about mining, we talk about construction, we talk about trains. Everywhere where the renewable diesel can help to decarbonize. Next to that, we have renewable aviation fuels, where we made great progress in the last months to help to decarbonize the aviation in a significant way. And a quite new segment here is the renewable polymers and chemicals segment of Neste, where we help to decrease the dependency from crude oil in the chemical sector. Coming to the topic, why do we need renewable fuels if we have electrification and hydrogen in place? I think this is the key question here. And let me walk you through this animation of the page here. We see up till 2040 an increasing oil demand, which is going up to 4.8 billion tons globally per year. Out of that, around about 2.9 million tons are being used in the global transportation. Might it be shipping, aviation, road transportation? Out of that 2.9 billion tons, we believe that the biofuels can replace around about 1 billion tons and provide a way out of the crude oil intensive consumption. Next to that, we see also the puzzle piece here of potentially 600 million electric cars by 2040, helping with the amount of 360 million tons of crude oil replacement. And of course, not to be forgotten, the potential effects of power to liquids and hydrogen as a puzzle piece which needs to be defined closer in the future. So if we look to that picture, the conclusion is very clearly, if we want to hand over a healthy planet to our children, we don't talk about a competition of technologies. We talk about a joint race here against climate change. So this means we basically need all solutions in place to fight climate change. Our contribution to that race against climate change, which is also present here on the IAA, is the renewable diesel called Neste MY in a neat form. We see here a fuel which provides greenhouse gas emission reduction by 90%. We see that this is usable in any existing diesel engine with the existing infrastructure, both in a neat but also in a blended version. We have OEM releases from all of the big manufacturers in place. If you walk around here on the IAA and you look at the fuel tanks of the trucks, you will see this XTL print on it. This truck is ready to use Neste MY renewable diesel. All of this comes along with the highest diesel quality. So we see a technical superiority compared to the fossil fuel. We have excellent winter cold performance up to minus 22 degrees Celsius constantly. We have a very clean combustion process with a very high cetane number, which lowers the local emission dependent on the exhaust gas treatment of the engine regarding NOx and so on and so forth. So this is our contribution to make a difference in this race. And now let me move on to explaining how the fuel is considered throughout this process of production. Neste pays pretty much attention to monitor the carbon intensity throughout the entire process, from sourcing the raw materials until the use case of the fuel. And what you see, I just would like to highlight basically 2 points in this slide. The one is the fuel refining. You see in comparison the blue chart showing the carbon intensity from crude oil compared with the green part, which is citing then the Neste MY carbon intensity. You see that our refining process is less carbon intense compared to the traditional oil refining process. And the second important part, in case of using the fuel, we don't emit any kind of fossil molecules into the atmosphere. So because our molecules are basically recycled, so they are taken from the atmosphere and then emitted to the atmosphere again. So all of this is in compliance with the RED II directive. We achieve 90% CO2 emission reduction with this fuel. And what Neste is all about is, one of our core values is sustainability, and the sustainability promise is closely linked with our fuel, Neste MY. If we look to the availability of Neste, we have 600 stations already across the global network, 28 countries where you can basically already get the fuel. We have more than 4,000 business customers served from our sales force and from our channel network. We see that in Germany now, just this year, we decided to launch the Neat Fuel brand Neste MY in the market, and we have already access in the context of the Clean Vehicle Directive to public fleets, to transportation, and to off-road applications. Nevertheless, we cannot provide the full range of defossilization inside Germany. We are waiting for an opening of the regulation, which helps the transport sector to get access to this fuel and to unleash the defossilization potential completely. Coming to 2 questions which are always asked: do we have enough capacity to catch up the demand? For that, let me show you this page here. You see that from 2021 until 2025, we made our assumptions how supply and demand will develop with each other. We see that regulatory ambition levels are increasing in Europe and North America. We see that new markets are coming up out of Europe and North America in the APAC region. And we also see that the voluntary demand to decarbonize is catching up. Nevertheless, we say we believe that the supply and the demand will grow in parallel with each other. So, circling back to my question, can the supply meet the demand? Yes, it can. One of the next very important questions, which is always asked, do we have enough feedstocks available to produce the fuel? And here it's very important to say, currently we are operating in the lower blue part, which is waste and residues from fats and oils. So all of this is accumulated up to 50 million tons a year and will help us to grow the volume. Neste is heavily investing to diversify its pool of feedstock sources. And you see we are just listing here a few, like novel vegetable oils, municipal solid waste, lignocellulosics, and last but not least, I would like to mention algae as a potential source for additional feedstock. All of this counts up that we strongly believe the 1 billion tons in 2040 is a realistic scenario. So also here, circling back to the question, is there enough feedstock? Yes, there is enough feedstock. Let me move on, exploring here a little bit the comparison of the different alternatives of defossilization, decarbonization, and transport. I need to explain this chart a little bit. It's assuming the life cycle CO2 emissions in gram CO2 per kilometer, assuming 500,000 kilometer mileage for a conventional truck. On the left-hand side, you see basically a truck running on generic fossil fuel. The blue part is the energy consumption from the production of the vehicle, and then in green added up the wells-to-wheels emissions from the use phase. In the middle, you see a comparison from electric vehicles with different energy content. And on the right-hand side, you see a traditional truck powered by our fuel, Neste HVO. So what is necessary to mention that, of course, the defossilization potential of an electric car depends on the energy what you put into it. And let me cite here the European bit of the story. So we have a carbon intensity of around about 320 tons of CO2 per gigawatt hour in the average in Europe. And we hope that the dotted line will someday become reality in 2030, bringing it down to 130 tons per gigawatt hour. Sweden is already quite green, so this is what's the current state already, so they're already at 42 tons. So if we move our view a little bit over to the right, you will see that with a traditional truck just using our fuel as a drop-in solution, we are capable to minimize massively the carbon intensity of the vehicle. And this is here currently already in practice. So we are running the trucks from MAN, Iveco, and Scania, located in hall number 11 with our renewable fuel. So it's a solution which is basically here and now already available. Let me conclude the presentation. So there are good ways, good solutions already existing to decarbonize today. The point is we really need regulatory environment which helps us to unleash the full potential of the solutions which we have in our hand. It's not a technical competition, it's a joint race against climate change. Renewable fuels have a significant scalability. We have feedstock, we have production capacity. And last but not least, both electrification and renewable fuels are needed, and we need them right now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Nestle, what has gotten into me? We've gotten to the point of the day where my mind is on cookies and the delicious beverage known as Neste, which is not what you make. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
We are moving right along with our keynotes. I have made my one big mistake for the day, so it should be smooth sailing from here on out. If you're joining us on the live stream, welcome. We're very happy to have you. We're carrying on with the topic of infrastructure here on the main stage. The next topic is fleet charging in the logistics and inner-city transportation industry. This topic is being addressed by the CEO and founder of Mala Charge Big. Please welcome to the main stage